Thanks for joining us again. Get the gunshot.
Buddy gets hurt.
That's it. Today we have Jamie on board with us, and we have a special guest over here, a good friend of ours, Darren Magaro. Welcome, Gavin. Thanks for coming on. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. So quick. So like you and I met during COVID, right? Our good friend and works with us too, Drew, introduced us. Drew has a media company. You have a company too. He kind of like subbed some work for you or something like that. And we met you at your old office, which was like
a college campus.
a college campus. Right? It was office in quotes. Right? He definitely told me he got work the
Foosball tables and shit. I mean,
full bar.
It was
Fridge.
suspect at best.
the first time I pulled up to that office,
Yeah.
I was like,
How many square foot?
what, how many floors?
A lot of unused square footage.
I mean,
It was nice.
just not efficient.
Yes.
It was a nice office.
Yes.
So that was our introduction, and we hit it off. We started talking, we kept talking, business first, and I think I know we developed a friendship and a relationship, and the same with Jamie. So tell us a little bit about like your background, where you're from, kind of what you do. Let's start over there.
Yeah.
It was like 1954.
1954. It's actually interesting because like literally over the hill on Outwater Lane is where my grandparents' house was. I think I was telling you this. So it's like this is kind of home for me. Like I spent a lot of time in Garfield growing up. For me, it was pretty simple. I graduated. I mean, you kind of know the story a little bit. I graduated Lehigh.
It never gets old.
There's some times where I wish I would have changed things around a little bit or had a bit more of a plan going into it, but it really started. I graduated Lehigh with a history degree. I was going to be a teacher, and I couldn't get a job in 2000. So,
Thank God.
Thank God.
You'd be a sexy teacher, though, man.
You'd be long.
So like, not for nothing.
Pending charge.
Locked
Hold on, could you guys like just? I know we got to get into the storyline here, but could you imagine me teaching the next generation? Like,
history.
how friggin' scary is that?
My coolest teacher in high school was my history teacher,
They're all cool.
Mr. Defiance. Like he made it, and I was like, history's boring. He made it so like I love history now. You know what I mean? And it was because of him. So and he's a good looking guy too.
Thank you. Mr. Dauphin, wherever you are.
meet you guys.
Yo, shout out. You got
Mr. Dauphin.
You got to
He's like
tag
the
him on
principal
IG,
now.
bro. Yeah, absolutely. I could see you doing that though on a higher level in education, like becoming the sports director, and then
I love
you have that. You have that about you, man.
I love teaching. So it's a part of kind of like my story now. Is
Okay.
that we've spoken about this many times, and you're literally living it in your progression as an entrepreneur. So started in 2000, worked in Manhattan, did the whole big agency thing, came out, got married to my lovely wife in 05, didn't want to travel to LA anymore. I was working for Toyota. Basically came out to an agency in New Jersey, in Paramus, was there for 6 months. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. I mean, it's the age old story. There has to be a better way to do this. On a whim, coming back on a train from DC. And it was like, my wife and mother-in-law were away on vacation. And I was like, I'm going to start my own company. Didn't have any plan, didn't have any money, didn't have a client. I mean, I technically had a client, I guess, with Ralph. But that was it. I started it on a Monday. I bought my laptop. It was like Jerry Maguire. Instead of a goldfish, I walked out with a laptop. I went to IKEA, bought a rotisserie chicken and a 6-pack of beer, and went home and waited for a phone call from my wife, who was down in Florida with my mother.
Guess what I did?
Guess what I did? You're going to start a company? Oh, when in a year? No, Monday. And literally that was we got incorporated March of 07. And here we are in 2023, and we're almost 18 years old.
So it's been like smooth sailing.
Oh, totally. Like every single thing about
You've doubled the gross every year. I know how it goes, man. It's
Employee benefits are through the roof.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy in the company.
the 401ks couldn't be better.
everybody's living the dream.
Yeah.
But no, it started with a belief, I guess, that I could do it, and it was off to the races.
Don't forget the supportive wife, and
without you guys probably know this really. Without Samantha, this never could have happened. I didn't take a salary for almost 3 years, so she was the sole provider as I built it up. we grew pretty quickly. We went from like that first year doing like, I think like $78,000. By year two, we were already making 450, 500,000. And it was straight hustle. Like it was literally hustling people in Wyckoff and Franklin Lakes in Oakland that knew my parents growing up and like owned local businesses, and that's how we got started.
So you had a little bit of a reputation in terms of they knew who you were, what you stood for.
They knew they knew what I was doing. I honestly think shout out to Uncle Ralph for having the belief in me that he did. I think people felt bad. They were like, "What?" They were like, "What the f is this kid doing? Like, what are you?"
We got to make sure everybody knows Uncle Ralph,
Yeah, Uncle Ralph.
Ralph Loretta,
is
Sal Loretta.
honestly the two biggest thank yous that I have with regards to my company is my wife and Ralph. Because without my wife, I couldn't have gotten the company off the ground. Without Ralph having belief in me from working together and knowing each other a little bit from, my old agency and just through like relationships with my father-in-law and his dad and things like that. He was my first partner.
And Ralph thanks you for keeping his bill exactly the same as you did in 2007. You're welcome, Ralph.
We've done, it was actually interesting at the time too, because now that you're getting into this, like that's part of the backstory. So I used to go down to Parisi's in Midland Park at like, I used to close it out before we had kids, like go to the gym. And I'd go to the gym, I'd go Friday night from 9 to 10 o'clock. And then having Ralph as a client, I'd literally go over to the store and we'd have a few like vodkas and like rearrange the store. And so that's how I kind of like got to understand his business and like the whys behind it. Because at that point, we were coming up together. He was kind of like taking over for his dad as like the patriarch of the company. And that's how we kind of like grew. I mean,
Talk about grassroots. I mean,
I learned a lot from him.
moving the racks around and stuff like that.
Our wives would be like, "What are you guys doing?"
He was at the inn on Friday, and I told him, like, I'm gonna come start rearranging the store because he gave me some pointers,
Yeah.
some tips. He likes things Ralph style, and what I mean by that is the veal parm. He likes the cheese before I put it in the broiler. I've been doing it afterwards, so now it's Ralphie style,
Ralphie's
and he enjoys Ralphie style, and he deserves it.
Let's go into a little bit because we're talking a little bit about your business. Like,
okay.
tell us what you do exactly, what your business consists of.
We have a full service marketing firm. And what we've done, the best way to explain it, we try to keep it simple. So we have 15 people, like literally grew from me in a front porch to what it is today. There's been many iterations in between. There's been, partners added, partners bought out. There's been people in, people out. It's probably on DSM 7.0 at this point. The core values have always stuck. And I think, you guys know me well enough. Like that's it. Like if people don't believe in you, like we're a marketing firm.
Yeah.
There's 15 billion other marketing firms in like 100 miles of us. It's about like what you stand for, what you believe, like transparency, honesty. Like we're not always going to get it right. There's not a marketing company that is.
No, not at the first time.
Not the first time, but you keep trying, you keep iterating, similar to business.
So do you get more like startups? Do you have certain businesses? I'm sure you do all of them, but like what's your core startups businesses that have been around for a while, other ones that need a refresh? What's your primary and like what do you like to do too?
Where sort of our sweet spot is now. So it started up with all or businesses that just local business, small business, like like shops and things like that. Now it's got
Which never had a marketing budget in 2007 and 8, right? I mean,
well,
were they big?
It was no. It was an interesting time because it was really like the dawn of internet marketing. Like 2007, 2008, there wasn't really an internet marketing. There wasn't digital marketing in how we know it
It was
today.
Google, but it was small in terms of ads. It was mainly tech companies.
And nobody believed in it because it wasn't proven, right?
When we started, it was creative. It was traditional marketing. Print, radio, television, out of home,
Got
all
it.
those. Where I came from in like my old world as an agency person in New York. And then 2011, 10, 11, 12, that's when it really like started like HubSpot. We got in with HubSpot. That really grew. And from there, I mean, HubSpot was what it was. Very lucky to get in on the stock at $25. Now I think it's like 500 or
Oh
something.
shit.
But yeah, I mean, that's what it was. It was building piece by piece, minute by minute, failing shitload, and just, but always trying to like do right by people, like accepting the failures, not running away from them, not, you know, shirking responsibility.
Admitting, changing, moving on, pivoting, right?
Pivoting.
Becoming better. Who was your first hire for the company?
My first hire was actually, so at the beginning of '08, my ex-partner who was our creative director. He was working in the spare bedroom. His name is Ryerson.
Of your home?
No, he was working in his house.
Ned Ryerson?
Ned Ryerson, not Ned Ryerson. Ryerson's kid.
Did he go professional with that belly button thing, or was that? Sorry.
Ned Ryerson. No, he was working in a spare bedroom as a creative, and I was working in a basement out in a front porch that turned into a basement when it got too cold, when Samantha stopped putting blankets
As
on
the
me.
rainmaker.
Right, as the rainmaker and like account person and going out and getting business. And that was the first hire. We came together at the beginning of '08 formally, and like opened the company. We moved into our office in Franklin Lakes.
Did you guys have a relationship previous to that, or
No,
you put an ad out and he answered it?
No.
What was the?
I actually reached out to his then girlfriend, who was my brother-in-law's friend, because I had a friend of mine from my old agency who was kind of moonlighting as my creative person. I needed somebody to create ads.
Got it.
So after hours, he would be doing it. And then we met in like October, and I basically went to his then girlfriend and was like, who's now his wife, and was like, yo, you want to come work for me? And she's like, I have my own stuff going on, but my boyfriend is in our spare bedroom doing creative work, and he's looking for somebody who's an account guy. So we came together really at the beginning of 2008, and that was, before 2019 when he left. We were together for 11 and a half years.
And how'd you end up doing during that time, like 2007, 8, 9? Obviously, the economy took a shit. Real estate took a shit. Did it affect you guys at all, or you kept?
Oh, we had nothing, man. We literally had nothing. We were building from nothing. So all the small businesses that knew us, we were doing good work that they frankly, we brought the level of local marketing up where people, even bigger companies, they had one person doing PR, one person doing creative, all freelancers. And my goal with this was to really bring everything under like one roof, to have everybody communicating. Because we all know, like, for a marketing message, if you're not communicating that message and people aren't talking, like, what are we all doing? So, no, I mean, it really didn't affect us. I mean, we were growing every year.
You can't lose anything when you don't have nothing. I mean, can you?
And when I say,
Can you?
I mean,
There's bottoms people have, and then there's the ones you know of, and then there's always another level of it.
well, but literally when I started this, talk about like a wing and a prayer. I had $5,000, of which I spent $3,000 on the laptop and another like $78 at IKEA to buy a desk and a garbage can. So I had like 25. Like I literally started with no plan.
Yeah.
Listen to me. If you are starting a business, I'm talking to you now. If you are starting a business and you're listening to me right now, don't do it that way. It was probably not the best way to do it. But what I did have was a belief in myself, and that's what you should have.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. You got to go all in, though. That's the thing, right? And with the belief in yourself more than anything. The money finds its way, whether you got to hustle or you got to
yes,
that you have to believe. Like I always say, like if you're going to do something, it's very like you might have to in the beginning if you have a job and then you do this at night, but you eventually have to turn that into your primary and you have to devote all your time and go all into it.
to your point though, you can't lose much if you don't have much. So if there's a plan and a little bit of money, it's all about taking the plan to the best of your ability, doubling down with the money you have. I mean, I'm assuming that's how we all started this.
It kind of started the same way. I mean,
Like you have what you have. My dad was an old school guy.
I got a
from
logo
Lodi.
and a note
Yeah, like my dad was an old school guy from Lodi,
and an
and
apron.
he was an entrepreneur. And he used to say to me, like in high school, when I would do like cut grass and shovel driveways and all the stuff that kids did in the 80s and
Right.
90s, like if you don't spend more money than you have, like you're not going to lose anything. And there's a certain level where you get to a certain level and you have to risk a little bit more to get a little bit more.
Sure.
But like Adam Smith 101, like if you don't spend more than you have, you can't go broke. I don't know.
Phil,
Makes
are you
sense.
good at that, Phil?
What's that?
Spending less than what you have?
I do. I am very good at it. Actually, yeah. Like that's my thing. I do have a limit. You know what I mean? Like something has to come in and pay for something before. To the outside world, it doesn't look like that, but I'm very calculated when it comes to that. I'm not so like, you know what I mean? I look at it like, all right, there's 100 here. This is 80, something like. There's a percentage. There's a percentage. It's not like an exact. You know what I mean? You know what though? Sometimes I don't put myself in a fucked up position where I'm like, oh shit, I gotta sell the house. You know what I mean? But like sometimes the pressure of like, damn, makes me get more creative, makes me think outside the box. Because when you're comfortable too, when everything is an exact fit, it doesn't work. Most of my opportunities, and we were talking about this the other day, which is like, cool, here's an opportunity. Yeah, I don't have enough for that. Do I just stop and quit? Or do I make it happen? So I'll talk to you, I'll talk to Jamie, I'll talk to different people and figure it out because you know, again, like I don't need all the resources. I just need to be resourceful. I just got to talk to the right people and I have to put it together, make sure it works. But when it comes to buying some bullshit and some materialistic shit, make sure A pays for B
Cover.
a couple times over.
What 20% I hear is okay. If there's
For
20,
me,
yeah, 20% in the gray area is
it's not for
fine. Is
anybody
that what
else.
I'm
If
hearing?
you're me,
Okay.
There's a wonderful term that you'll laugh at because I sent you this reel yesterday.
Yeah.
Moronic responsibility.
of course, absolutely.
Like we're all morons in certain ways, but like you have to be responsible. And as you get older too, and as you guys understand it, I have a different appetite for I have a different appetite for defiance now. Like I was just doing this disc assessment I was telling you guys about, and there was a level of like the bottom level is like downright defiance. Like I used to be defiant in a lot of ways. I used to just buck the tide. I used to just be like, you know what? Like I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it my
Just
way.
because.
Just because when you have a wife and kids, you can't just be defiant. Like one, it's not responsible, but two, like when you have people who sacrifice for you and around you and help you and things like that, like it becomes like there's a little bit of maturity, I guess. I don't want to say a lot because I'm still like a 12-year-old.
There's definitely maturity. As I get older, I find myself driving slower too. It kind of
You drive a little slower, you save a little bit more, you fall asleep on the
funny. Anybody who knows me, I did. I slowed down, bro. You know,
you fall asleep on the couch at 9:30 a little, maybe a night or two
it
now.
happens once in a while. Yesterday, Sunday,
Yeah.
yeah, I fell asleep on the couch.
That's my thing too. Like I was saying, when I was young, I was defiant, right? Anything, I was the opposite. I was in Catholic school, so I fucking hated it, hated cops, hated everything, just to be defiant. Anybody who
We all have that in common.
and I like what you said in terms of like when you have wife and kids, but I was defiant where I just really didn't give a fuck about my parent, anybody, right? It got tired and I got tired of the consequences because it was a very compulsive thing to just like bark back or say something, right? With time, I don't know if it's maturity or just experience. And it's definitely a different change in mindset where it's like, I don't have to react to everything. I don't have to bark. You're just doing your job, for example, or you're just helping. You know what I mean? And like things like the 24-hour rule and everything, like I get to like postpone my reaction. And so like I notice I'm not as defiant, right? Certain my defiance isn't towards people anymore as opposed to maybe some ideas or rules or things I believe. And even in that, I attack it in a different way
Sure.
where it's like, cool, let me see what other people have done or the right way as opposed to like
You use the experience around you
yeah, correct.
instead of going through it yourself sometimes,
Absolutely.
where we all had to go through head first, maybe 10, 15, 25 times until you're like, I'm fucking sick of this. Now you can talk to your friends because you're surrounded by great people and say, what would you do if you were in this situation?
It's a victim mentality too, right? Where I was like, why is everybody picking on? Oh, he's after me. So you got the defiance comes from defense, right? So you got the defense up the whole time. So and like, cool. So you're saying that, right? And it's like you don't live like that anymore, right? In the sense of being defiant. Do you look at things more like as opportunity when things happen, or like
Yes, I still have my moments where I struggle. I do look for opportunities. One of the key things for me, and this is not taking any, it's like National Daughters Day was yesterday, not taking anything away from my daughters, but having a son changed my whole perspective. And there are certain things now that I see in him as a seventh grader that he's going through these struggles and he's trying to wrap his head around the whys. And he's frankly, Luca's got a lot of me in him. Like he's gonna have his moments where he's just gonna be like, he's gonna have his moments. Like he's gonna be like, fuck off.
Yeah.
And I
We're in the
don't.
same boat. My son's 12. He's in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And we have the same
Son's 12 in
birthday.
7th grade too.
Same birthday. Like he's me and I see a mini version and he's trying to figure himself out. But dude, 7th grade's fucking hard anyway you slice it, right? Like,
But there are parts of you that you're seeing. This is where with Luca it gets me, because there are parts of me that I see in him that I love to embrace, because it's going to give him the steadfastness to go out there in the world and be like, there's going to be parts in time, like your world, it's not going to be easy.
Sure.
Like he's growing up in a time and place that things are easy. You know,
Right.
you live in the top one, like you don't get it. This is why I always go back with my kids on, like, there are people out there, like this thing I'm doing with the J Funder, like you need to give back. You need to give back, because you see what you're going through, and your worst day, you're not 10 years old, a little girl who's had 9 brain cancer surgeries, like our little, my friend Camilla, like it so there's parts of him I want to embrace and I want to push him to keep pushing the envelope.
Right.
And on the flip side of it, there's parts that I'm trying to be like, tamp down a little bit and be like, bro, you're going to make the same mistakes that I did, and I don't want you to do that. So there's that balance. And that's where I think the maturity comes from. My wife will never admit it, because it's something, she's
well, you've gone from 8 years old to 12 years old. So you're moving in the right direction.
every decade.
I think we all kind of deal with the same thing, right? Like we live pretty good lives. Our kids see that, they benefit from it directly, but you want them to be humble human beings,
But
it's hard to teach that lesson when they're just used to.
You want to push the envelope, but you also want them to understand how important it is to take the resources they have and to give back. Because that right there, if you can get somebody who's willing to push the envelope and push boundaries, and yet altruistic at the same time, that's the nexus point.
I'm always enamored by your vocabulary. Is that a Lehigh thing?
My no, that's vernacular. My vernacular is actually.
It is. Your lexicon is deep.
You know he's been waiting to use that shit.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
That's like the new mile.
No, that's that 24 shit, son.
My lexicon.
No,
bro.
I appreciate it. You always use, and I have to Google stuff after every time we meet. And I'm a little frustrated because you refer to yourself as like this immature, moronic. Stop. Come on. You got some good stuff in there.
You know how to turn it on. Like, it doesn't mean he's
Yes.
not, right? It
Yes.
just means like he knows how to utilize it.
I always
resourceful.
Resourceful. I'm but I want like, it's really important. I keep going back to my kids. It's important for them to like be who they are and want to do the things that they want to do, and they're each different, and that's where I think
But I think you hit on it too, though. You said when you had a son, it changed you. I'm sure when you had your first daughter, it changed you tremendously. Mine did. It made me more sensitive and look at things a different way. I mean, how do I want men treating my daughter?
Yes.
And I'm kind of dealing with that right now because she's 15 and I'm not there a lot. And she seems to like the sarcastic boys. You know what I mean? And it's like, I asked my wife the other day, I was like, is this all my fault? Should I, what's going on here?
What I want to say is like, so like, I agree with what you said in terms of taming stuff down. But on the flip side, it's like, do I rob my son of the opportunity of learning that? You know what I mean? There's a balance there where it's like, I don't want him to do the stupid shit I did. And he's a good kid. He's pretty good with it. But certain things, I almost feel like I have, like, I'm still there. You know what I mean? But I have to, like, there's a lesson in there sometimes of bumping your head and all the shit I went through, right? Would I change anything? Absolutely not. I just believe like that was my path, right? It was voluntary though, right? I don't recommend anybody else do the fucking same shit I do. And that's kind of why I speak about it. But I have to be careful that I remove every blocking from my son. You know what I mean? And my daughter, like and I tell that to my wife because she's more helicopter.
If you don't know how to fall down, how do you know how to get up?
Look, my son doesn't cry. Like I taught him from like when I clapped. I reinforced like, good job, you're getting up. And my daughter kind of too. My daughter's a little different now. she's more like she cries for everything. You know what I mean? And my son just like I kind of like help build that spirit up in him. So I don't want to catch him. You know?
You're clapping on the comeback, not on the fall.
Absolutely,
Trip, right? It's not about you falling. It's about you getting up.
And
We all fall.
to that point, though, it's also about, and this is just like where I'm at with Luca right now with sports. Like sports are his world. And some of the guys probably don't agree with me, the guys that I coach with, but like you forget something, lacrosse, you forget your mouthpiece, pack your shit up, we're going
Don't
home.
play. I agree.
And guys were like literally looking at me, like the guys I coach with. I did it with him. I said, I make sure, make sure your stuff is all packed, ready to go. Like that's not my responsibility. That's yours. So that point about like falling down, life's unfair.
Way more often than it's.
Is it though?
But life is so he got bent up. So I'll give you an example. Well, but I'll give you
I
an
like how
example.
this is all playing out.
No, but I'll give you an example. If I ask you as your father or your mother to make sure all your shit's packed up, that's like life. Like when you're gonna get like you're not just stepping into DSM. God help you.
When
if
you
step
get your
into
job,
DSM.
same thing. You got to come prepared.
Yeah, like you have a mom who's got a successful multi-generational company. You got dad where he might have his company, in 12, 15 years when you graduate. You think you're just stepping into this shit?
Right.
Absolutely not.
Hell no.
I say the same thing.
So if you think that the little lessons of packing a mouthpiece for lacrosse, as crazy as that sounds, and then you get pulled off the field and you throw a tantrum walking off the field, you know what? Like that's getting knocked down.
That's the lesson.
That's the lesson that you had to learn the hard way because you wanted to play on your iPad and on your Xbox with your buddies right up until 5 minutes before leaving. And the thing that I asked you to do, the thing that your boss is going to ask you to do, the thing that your wife is going to ask you to do, not that I always do it, Samantha, but I try.
That's another episode.
That's another episode. But that's the lesson.
But so that's the thing. So like we talk about sometimes like, cool, that's what's supposed to happen. Like when I was a carpenter, if I went to work without my tool belt, they're not going to be like, yeah, just hang out, you're good. You know what I mean? Like you got to pay you
Come back
hang around,
tomorrow.
nothing. You're great. Don't worry about it. There's no consequence. So the problem is like, and I hate the blankets, not all kids, it's not the generation, but it's like it's grown where you have this entitlement where it's like you get to play either way. We'll get you a mouth.
But that's the
There's no responsibility. There's no parents, coaching, authorities, the people that they say.
Yeah, because the authorities don't have authority anymore, right?
There's no consequence. There's no nothing, right? So like, if you don't like, it starts at home. You know what I mean? Like my son, he forgot something the other day, and I'm like, I got your ass down. And he got a little. He doesn't even get upset because I say it every time he does it. I'm like, I'm not responsible for your shit. You should have brought it. My bike got stolen. You should have chained it up. Doesn't mean he won't get one. You know,
Right.
But like, but there has to be.
There has to.
It's not like how evil are those people that did it. Life's unfair. It's like no, you fucked up. Take accountability. Like I don't want my kids to be victims growing up. Like that's why like the world is unfair. It's like can it be? I'm an optimist. I look on the other side, but it's like what was your role?
But how unfair can it be for our kids when they're all growing up? Like we all had, like I said, I grew up, the majority of my time was spent down here in Garfield, which in the 80s, it was, it was different.
It was different.
Definitely.
It was different.
It was different.
But it was still like, but for me, all I have is fond memories of Bellport Place. Like literally getting, the neighborhood around my grandparents' house, the old timers that were out there. Like this for me, my mom's going through it right now. Like they put an offer on the house on Jewel Street, my great aunt's house after she passed away. But like there's lessons that I learned and there's lessons that I had to learn the hard way. My dad was, when they had me, he was 50. When he died, he was 68. In 95, I was 18. Like how is that fair? That was the most fucked up time of my life.
Of course, absolutely.
Like there are things that I still haven't unpacked
Right.
from that day. And I remember it like it was yesterday.
Like it was 5 minutes ago.
Like it was 5 minutes ago. It's the only time I've been tackled by my mother. She came charging out of the house and I didn't know what to do. Like I literally got picked up. I got onto a plane. I had a priest tell me that morning, got onto a plane up in New Hampshire into Newark. My cousin picked me up. I got to my house not knowing what to expect. And my mother came flying out of the house and like tackled me.
Yeah.
And it started like pounding on. What do you do as an 18-year-old? It's insane. you know? So like that's another lesson that I try to impart on like why I love coaching. That's another reason why I started DSM. I love coaching youth football. I love
teaching with a ball.
it's
got
teaching,
doing love,
Or a stick, or
you get fulfillment from it.
there's so many lessons beyond just like
so many.
winning. Like winning the game is important, and I love winning. Like I hate losing. I I fuck. There's nothing worse than I hate than
I'm with
losing.
you.
The only thing as bad as losing is traffic in my mind, or a long line. But it's the same thing to me.
What,
I'm just waiting to win.
what's second?
If I fucking lost, then what do I have to do to win?
First loser, bro.
So I want to go back for a second, Darren. You said something and it kind of stuck with me.
First loser.
So how much shit did you get from your son, from every other teammate, from the staff? Like that might have been a tough 25 minutes for you,
I
right?
got some looks.
How did your wife react? Did she stand by you on that?
Yes.
That's great.
Samantha's a little bit more understanding than I am.
That's huge, man. And
But-
that's old school. But your son learned he let the whole fucking team down because he let himself down because all he needed was a mouthpiece.
That's what I.
He's never going to do that shit again.
But that was the lesson. Well, he hasn't.
And you didn't even have to hit him. I mean, because we're not allowed to hit our fucking kids these days.
No,
right?
no.
Are you?
I don't, but I'm allowed to.
I know you're allowed to, but have you ever? Is it like a back of the head? Like, is it like a,
I'm going to give props to Luca now because he's starting to get man strength. So if I could get inside on him, it's becoming a little dicey. Like I had to make a few trips to the bathroom to like exhale because we've gotten into it a little bit.
all
But
right,
no, Samantha stands by me. She's more understanding.
which is huge.
But when it comes to his sports, it's kind of like we have divisions of responsibility within the household. Like
Yeah.
she understands that that's my domain, and he was raised in a house similar to mine,
Got it.
like a second marriage where our dads were older and there was, like I joke, I'm sorry I'm saying this, but like one of her dad's favorite sayings was like kids are better seen than heard. Like that's the way it was. Like it was old school, so I don't know.
Listen, it worked for a long time for a reason.
This still works.
It still works.
That's what I'm saying.
I think that there's levels of it's a different dynamic. I'm going to use another big word for you. There's a different dichotomy of the populations.
Told you.
I can't spell it.
That's good.
There's a different, the population of where we live is very well-to-do. The kids are given a lot, but in that giving a lot, there's a great responsibility. That's my mantra. If you're given a lot is expected.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I try to teach. There was definitely a lot of looks.
There's a lot of alignment in business, right?
Yeah.
When you're walking into DSM, you're playing for the fucking Yankees. You better look the part, act the part, be the part, right? I mean, like,
We're always
it's the same thing.
you are at the end of the day, it's how you built your business up and how you guys have it's your reputation. I don't know what else. Like you're not going to always get it right. So if people are always going to hold you to a standard of you're always going to put the best marketing strategy together, like that's what marketing is.
Correct.
Like if you're hitting 300, you want to make the analogy of the Yankees, you're hitting 300, we're doing a pretty damn good job. But if you have integrity, if you have your, if you own up to it, if you make a mistake, like everybody at DSM knows that I'm going to fall on a sword. Like I'll fall on the sword. We make a mistake, we'll own it. But if you're not doing your best or not telling the truth, or you're trying to cover something up, which thankfully we have people with like amazing, character and everything like that. Like it's all about the people you hire too. Like it's the people that you surround yourself with. It's
all
just
that.
It's core values, standard, energy, and how you hire.
And sometimes it takes iterations to get there.
Yes, it does.
Like having, there was DSM 1.0, there was DSM 2.0. The people that were involved in 1.0 and 2.0 and 3.0, there's, out of the 22 people, when we moved into the office in Mawa, there's 3 people left. Charlene, Christine, and me.
You're never going to have your.
Listen, we all have made some hires in our day that we're probably not proud of now.
It's like, you remember Windows, right? It's like Windows 95, then 2000 came out. There's so many iterations of Windows. They're not all good, right? It's the last one where you're at, where you can make the adjustments to stuff like that.
And it's understanding in business the time and place that you're at.
Correct.
And for that, and it's hard because with me, like my biggest thing is like preaching family at DSM, and family has a To some people, it's got a really good connotation. Other people, it's got a bad connotation. You don't know what people's lives are like, but you know you're going to get taken care of. Like you're going to be a part of something. And most people, at least from the ones that come to us from other places, I'm floored by the amount of people that come to us and they're like, you don't even know how cool this place is. Like you actually listen to us and like it doesn't suck. Like I'm like, where'd you come from? Like were you in jail in Russia? Like what?
Gulag.
Man, were you in like a gulag or something? Like, no, people are like, I've had narcissistic bosses. I've had psychopaths as bosses, like people who don't listen to me. Like, you actually listen. And that's so important to a lot of people that I think it's overlooked and it's so easy to do.
Sometimes that's all people want you to do is just hear them out,
They
right?
want some attention.
When I do the one-on-ones lately, I've been trying to do them a lot more often. It's really just allowing them to speak and actually listening to what they say. Words are really important, and people forget that.
Being present.
In most of the conversations I've had in the past, I'm just waiting for my turn to talk.
Or you're waiting, you're listening to react.
I'm listening to react. Now I'm actually listening, and I want to hear what you're saying because I want to make it better.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. How can I make it better?
What you just said, I feel like, and we actually had this conversation. There's a certain part, my biggest downfall is my lack of ability and foresight that I always feel like I have imposter syndrome. There's a part of me that always feels not good enough, not good enough. I can't do it. There's like this little piece, and that's like why I'm so tenacious. Like with this disc assessment, like I'm a straight fucking D.
I want to talk about the assessment, but first, thank you for saying that because I feel better about myself now. You just admitted that because I feel like an imposter in my own business. And sometimes I feel like an actor, playing a role. Like it's really hard. I walk into a place, I haven't been there in 3 months.
And
And they're like, hey, Dad,
You're a great
where's the
actor,
cigarette and milks? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what?
but you have a lot. You've run parallel path to me in that when I started, similar to you probably, and similar to you, you did everything. You had to do everything. The resources were not like given to
You
us.
were the resource.
I was well, I mean, we like, but it was trying to reinvest in the resources. It was just like with every dollar that came in, two were going out the door.
Right.
So having that feeling that to me, the number one rule of entrepreneurism is to understand your weaknesses and surround yourself with people that complement those weaknesses. When you do that, you actually phase yourself out of the business. And in phasing yourself out of the business, that's when the imposter syndrome creeps up because you're literally not doing everything anymore. Imposter syndrome is the more and more I like delve into it, and it's like my biggest struggle. Like I can't even, it like hurts my heart because I used to fill those empty spaces with stuff that I was doing, whether it was billing or whether it was this. And then I found Charlene, and then she did the billing, and my account was like, "Don't ever touch the books again." And then, like,
I got that.
but those little things where you could fill, it's like having, yeah, like if you have all these voids, you were able to fill it with bullshit work.
Yeah.
That you probably shouldn't have been doing in the first place, but it took away from. And this is when you get to unpeel and you actually begin to like take on the things like your demons. That to me, like that's my biggest weakness.
Be careful because those demons make us successful.
Those demons make you successful, but they don't always have to manifest themselves into imposter syndrome.
You can't
know that
you
about
can't sustain them. That's the problem.
They're not forever.
Like they might have the initial, I agree with you, right? They might have the initial of what you have to do. And like, especially when you start a business or something, you're not only the brand, you're the face, you're the spokesperson, your HR, you're everything. As we grow, we tend to like not become that person anymore just because we don't need, like, you're not doing billing anymore, right? Maybe you're not meeting as many clients. Maybe it's with somebody else. You're opening up several restaurants. You can't be at all of them, right? So it does fall into that. At least for me, it does. Same thing when I go to different places. I'm like, fuck, I haven't been here in a while. I don't feel good. You know what I mean? And so I got to I take a breath before I open the door and I'm like, not like I don't want to, but I'm like,
We
you know,
talked about this 2 weeks ago. He's like, show up
I
with some
gotta
coffee and
now.
donuts and like reintroduce yourself.
I gotta like, you know, like I'm trying to get an Emmy because I'm gonna put on this fucking role.
Yo, it's real.
But at the same time, too, when I met you, and I kind of told you this, so it was the first time I went to a country club, and I was like, I feel like I belong. Right? It's that like little self doubt. Like I went in and I knew and everything, but I talked it out with him a little bit. Not, I don't let those things paralyze me or hold me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but like,
But that's that little
it's
tenacious kid that had to fall.
yeah,
Like that's that.
it's still like
We're not afraid to get hurt.
Like I don't look like most of these guys. That Darren's like, you look better than all
The good news about this,
suck at golf and shit. It's great. I feel like
the good news about this syndrome to me is you can't hurt me more than I've hurt myself.
of course.
So I'll walk into any situation, anywhere, and embarrass the fuck out of myself. And then 9 out of 10 people will be like, bro, that was amazing. How'd you do that? And I'm like, I have no idea what just happened. You know, it's
The thing that you have to realize, and again, going through the struggle of buying out two partners and having, one be, it's not something that I talk about a lot, like what, one being like normal and whatever, and the other being acrimonious. You learn how to,
that was good.
you learn how to, there are always feelings, and I'm a personal guy, so it's like if you wrong me, like it's a Sicilian, if you wrong me, you wrong me,
Right.
like you're dead to
Right.
me.
And as well as your whole family.
i've
He's
I've
Sicilian. My
I've
wife's Sicilian.
I've gotten
from my burnout.
but I've gotten to a place that you come, like, as you go further and further in business, you realize that you're gonna get hurt,
Absolutely.
and you're gonna get, it's not all gonna be
It's not
a bed of
right.
roses. Right. It's not all a bed of roses. It's not all always fun. There's a lot of responsibility that people don't understand when you're in the position. People see us and they probably like, oh, they get to go to play golf on
Must be
Friday.
nice.
Like you get to go to a country club for lunch, or you got a Porsche, or
Must be
whatever.
nice.
Like, yo,
Must be nice.
it's the iceberg. There's 15% on the surface, and then there's 85% below the water that people don't understand. The heartache, the pain, the struggle, the hurt, the responsibility of putting other people first, and making sure that, if you are a good boss and a good entrepreneur, like you're shouldering that yoke. You like that responsibility is yours. And so
You eat last.
you eat last.
With the opportunity to eat best, but you eat last.
Absolutely.
So that to me is my biggest struggle. Like that has been my hamstring. That deficiency is also what's driven me,
Right.
and it's made me, I think, better. It's made me more heartfelt. It's made me more like, at the end of the day, the one thing that I hope from any person at DSM that's ever been there, whether it's been good, bad, or ugly, like, you ask me for the shirt off my back, I'll give you two. Like, we might have disagreed and we might have parted ways and things might not have been good, but like, I would do anything for the people at DSM. And that to me is my responsibility.
And I know that for a fact because you message me often and send me, I need this, that, and this. I'm setting up this person. It's constant. So he walks the talk. There's no doubt about
I
it.
feel like a jerk doing it all the time, but like the people there, like,
If kids want to go to college, it's fine. You can call me any day, brother.
well, it's
Gift cards for all.
your legends preceded you, that everybody wants to go to your joints.
Can you, like, when you have to make a decision, right? Do you go more with emotional, like a business decision, or business? And everything is different. I understand, but like, can you separate them when you need to, or do you wait too long? Because I've been there where I waited too long with the emotional. I just got guy, and then I'm like, fuck. And we talked about this, right? Whether it's because I'm the second chance guy. Like, I want to give you multiple chances. Shirt off my back. I want, like, especially when I hire somebody, like, it's with the intentions of you to be successful. And so if you fuck up, I get it. But like in the last not last 6 months, the first half of this year, or and the end of, like, I've gotten situations where I let shit pass too much and my emotional took over, as opposed to like my logical. and what is supposed to happen. And as I grow, in the beginning, it's all emotional, right? And then as I grow, those are how I had to make the decisions. And then when I do it, I'm like, how the fuck did I make it? It always works out better. I make it
Always.
about that person more than the whole, the whole business or the whole, or everybody else.
Mhm.
And every time I do that, I fuck up. How do you deal with that?
I'm an enigma wrapped in a conundrum.
Who's dropping?
Bro,
I had to
Lehigh, stand up.
I
You
had-
giving all this to wrap up?
I had a top.
Come
I had
on,
a top,
Mr.
I had a top vernacular. So here's my thing. So the reason why
Oh, dude.
I'm an enigma wrapped in a conundrum is
Double down.
I can't separate myself. That is why I have Zinka and Charlene, and we work as a triad. So emotionally, I get very wrapped up. I'm an emotional person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I do it with pride. I don't give a shit. Like if and my wife is so I've learned things from her about the 24-hour rule or whatever it may be. And I've put some of those into practice and principle, but it's still very difficult for me. I get very emotionally wrapped up in people. And so it hurts me because I feel like I'm expending a lot of emotional energy to ensure that everybody around me has what they need. And there's parts in time when it becomes emotionally draining and I get frustrated. I can't do that, but I work in a triad where I have somebody who's very not only smart, but sort of even keeled and, like
Eastern European.
yeah, Eastern European, very well,
Ice in her veins.
she's
Dude, ice in her
it's
veins.
it's very everything is meticulous, everything is detailed. That is not my strength. But at the end of the day, and then Charlene is sort of she's German and the same thing. On the flip side of that, what makes us work well together is the fact that, and this goes back to the DISC assessment, we literally just went through this. The DISC assessment doesn't lie. And the three of us, when you look at us on paper, the skill sets totally complement one another.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, Zinc is coming up on 7 years, and that's why Charlene's coming up on 10 years or 9 years, whatever it is.
And 7.0 would never happen without those people, right? I mean, that's
Fucking 5, 6, and 7.0 wouldn't have happened because they literally, in 2019, I was in the hot when I was going through a very difficult time. These two ladies literally took over the company for like 2 weeks while I was, basically in bed. Like, I couldn't, like, I had an ulcer, like the whole thing.
right.
It was bad. Um, caring for one another and taking over and knowing it, like, that's the trust that's built. And you find that over time, and you find that over failings and successes and
Experience, yeah.
experience.
So you said 7.0, right? What's 8.0 and 9.0 look like? Or we could jump to 10.0.
$1 billion.
That was your catch.
Yeah. Like right now,
Or like business or just you in general?
for the first time in our history, will be 18 years in February. For the first time in our history, we hired a business coach.
Nice.
I've accepted the fact that I don't know everything and I don't have all the answers.
We accepted it.
I've accepted.
It took 18 years.
It took almost
It actually
18
took
years.
40. How old are you?
46.
Yeah, it took 46 years.
So we hired a business coach, and we are going through a process where I'm going to have to listen a lot. I don't necessarily like that all the time, but that's how we're going to get where we got from nothing to here.
Yeah.
And now in order to get from here to here, which is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.0, I have to stop talking and start listening.
Yeah.
And so, and having somebody who's been wildly successful in his career lead us with an unbiased set of eyes. Darren of 10 years ago never would have been able to accept that. I wasn't ready to have somebody be like, there's a better way to do this. And I think that's in our journey, I guess. I don't know.
I was talking to somebody did the same thing and he got a CEO and he's like, listen, I've gotten this place here, but I'm not going to be able to get it to this level. Like I might, but the time and the way my marriage is set up and everything else, it's not going to be able to. So that's where you got to call in help, get other resources.
That's a great point. I'm at a place now in my life where when I was 30 and I started this, working 21 hours a day without kids, like going to Ralph's store, working from 10 till 2 in the morning after going to the gym, and then waking up and going back to the gym in the morning and not having any responsibility. Like now, coaching my son at football, like every night from 6:30 to 8:30, my phone's off. I don't talk on the phone. I don't get back. Like that's where I'm at in my life. So it's having the understanding of like what's most important. And this is a funny thing because when I was a kid, my dad had his own business. I think I told you guys this. So he had his own interior design, like decorating business. After school, me and my buddies used to go play football behind our school. And he would show up. He would be the only dad. Everybody else's dad was in New York doing that, whatever. My dad would show up in his Ford Aerostar van with like donuts and like hot chocolate for all of us. All my other buddies were like, dude, your dad's the coolest shit. Like, what? Like, and I'd be like, I'd sit there and I'd come home. I wouldn't say anything to him there, but I'd come home and I'd be like, we'd have dinner. And I'd be like, why do you come down there and embarrass me? And only did I realize now when I became a dad, how much that meant, how awesome that was. And everybody else got the shit end of the stick. Like they wanted their dads there, but I wasn't old enough to see it. I wasn't mature enough to be able to embrace it. I was the luckiest kid in Wyckoff and everybody loved my dad. You know, like it's not like he showed up with like broccoli. Bro, he showed up with freaking donuts and hot chocolate for us. And we're, you know, like
Donuts in the 80s too.
The one thing I heard from you answering Phil's question about emotional or mental was always have the conversation.
Correct.
Like that's what I took from that. And that's the hardest thing for me because I'll have it in my head 12, 15 times before I have it with you. And my head's a messy place. I need to get out of it and really, and it ends so much better than it went in my head every single time. They're always like, Chef, why'd you wait so long to talk to me about this? I've been looking forward to doing it for you. Or, I can't wait to get started on this. Or that's an awesome project. Or,
this is the way we're built. It's you think the worst is going to happen. This is a lesson I'm getting with my freshman daughter. Same shit. Like, Livy, don't not have the conversation with your friends. Like, actually talk to your friend about it. Like, if you're having an issue, like she's a teenage girl. Like I didn't have
the issues are endless.
I didn't have any sisters, so but my wife's like, you need to me, it's like, oh my God, just have the conversation. I'm sitting there listening and I'm like, oh my God, just have the conversation and talk with this person. Like, what are you actually going around but to her, it's the end of the world.
Right.
It's spiraling into like, and all I want to do as this prototypical like male, like solve it. It's like the joke video with the dude with the nail in his head. And he's like, no, you have a nail like right here in your head. Like, she's like, I have this headache. And I'm like, Olivia, just have the conversation with your friends. And Samantha will be like, you don't have to be so abrupt. Like she's, just speak to her with a little empathy and a little kindness. But I'm like, but it's so
I learned this year that from my wife, actually, she's like, I don't always want a solution from you. Just listen to me sometimes. Let me talk through it on my own.
To put a nail in her head. It's like the video. It's the funniest video.
I've never seen it, but you explaining.
Go on YouTube. Go on YouTube. It's literally with a woman with a nail in her head being like, I have this splitting headache. And the guy's like, there's a nail in your head.
Perfectly describes marriage.
Just listen to me, right? It's not the nail.
It's not.
It's not the nail in the head. I just need somebody to listen.
It's exactly what it is.
And we're not wired for patience.
Our employees are kind of the same way, though. They just want you to listen, right? Like,
I'm going to jump in with my experience, right? Because I'm more on the let me listen to people, right? Again, I'm just giving my experience, not right or wrong. Like when it comes sometimes I listen too long. Sometimes I listen all the time.
But not listening at all is not good.
No, correct. You gotta listen, right? But it's like I've learned to put a limit on it. So like, cool, 30 seconds, tell me what it is, and then together let's figure out what it is. It doesn't always work with a teenage girl or some shit like that, right?
Right.
I get it, but like I had to do that because I became the whole like, Phil's here, let's talk to him. He's gonna listen to us. And I listen, and they think sometimes by listening that shit's gonna happen too.
Right.
And so like, because I want it to be the whole like, I'm the guy you could talk to, like me. right? See, I got a smile on my face, I'm
Right.
good. Then I don't deliver, right? Or then I listen too much. So, and that's again, that's just my experience of where I've done that sometimes. And my wife, on the other hand, is like all listening, all this. You know what I mean? No solution. She wants to be loved by any means necessary, and so it's cool because we like complement each other, especially when we work together. We could kind of like figure it out. But I did have to make some adjustments to it for me, not just employees, my son, everything. It's like, cool, you got 30-second minute, whatever. It's like, I'll listen a little bit, but some people will take me hostage if I let them. And then I'm just like, oh, I fucked up. I should have said something 4 minutes ago, and then you got to finish. So, like,
There's an art form to listening more, speaking less, but on the other side of it, and I say this if you ask anybody at DSM, that like if you come to me with a problem and no solution,
I say the same.
it's not going
what
to
you're saying.
like it's not going to like if you are going to come to me with a problem, I am happy to listen. But you also it might not be the right solution, or I may not agree with you on the solution, or together we'll work to find a solution.
Right.
But if you come to me with a problem and no solution, it's the easiest way to have you leave my well, we're remote now, so
You can say fire.
wherever. No, not fire them. There's trust me,
Come
there's
back when you got a solution.
come back when you have a solution. But it's what was ingrained in me. My dad and mom allowed me to, going back to the beginning of the conversation, they allowed me to fall flat on my face. So I had to understand like, there are boundaries in this world. We might not like them. We might not like agree with them. We might not always do them. but that's a part of our aura. That's a part of who we are. That there are people on the flip side of it that are order takers. I am not an order taker. I don't wish to be an order taker. I don't fucking want to be somebody. I don't want to be a sheep. I ain't a sheep.
I know. I just like hearing him say it.
I'm not a sheep. I am not a sheep. Put that on the sizzle.
That's gonna be the
On
sizzle
the flip
reel.
side, I go to the gym, right? It's my one fucking pet peeve there. One of them is like everybody has a wolf shirt. I'm like, everybody's not a fucking wolf either.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You bought the shirt. You're not.
You know what you should do?
And
Bring
if
a
you're telling
picture.
you're a wolf, you're not a fucking.
There's a picture of, it's actually funny. It's a wolf that's got like a sheep. It's like a like wolf face, wolf in sheep's clothing. And it's like, and you just see these sheep and then this wolf's face come up over the top. It's covered in a sheep. And it's just like,
What are those?
yeah. And you should print those out and just to all the people with wolf shirts, just be like, here, bro.
Like,
Yeah, here, bro. This is you.
like make them a little hat.
Like until you get to experience getting your teeth punched in by like IRL
Or IRS.
or IRS
What's IRL?
in real life, bro.
Oh,
So
Come on, get with the times.
LFG.
my bad, dog.
You got kids in high
Let's
school.
fucking go. I know.
IRL, bro. If you don't get your teeth punched in real life, like you're not gonna
The
know.
Mike Tyson quote, right?
I only
Everybody's got a plan.
till they get punched in the face.
In face, man.
I,
I only remember getting punched in the face and kicked in the teeth. Is that bad?
oh,
Defiance.
It's
By the way, I used to hate the cops when I was a kid. Now I'm like, officer, thank you so much for the job you do, and I
That's
really
all
appreciate
totally
that.
different. They're like,
It's crazy.
I have so many cop friends, and they're like, "Yo, take my goal," and I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
all me." And they're like fighting. I'm just like, "No, I'm all right." It's fucking,
it's the exact
it's awesome,
opposite.
and it's weird. And then you're like, "Damn, cops are crazier than me."
yeah, because you I don't know, you get older, you realize what it means to do certain things, and
We were also breaking the law most likely when we were young, you know? When you're drinking OE at 14 on the tracks, the cops get upset, you know? Making too much noise in a quiet little town,
yeah.
you know?
Look, there's things that we've gone through that this is, I guess, like the time of this, but like getting the people in your sphere as you get older, right? My sphere has shrunk. It's just the way it is. Like the people that you want to be around all the time, the people, and I'm
Gregarious, to say the least. My man.
Fine.
gregarious.
Guy didn't give me a fucking shot all day.
Okay, so
Don't
being
let
the,
the rich
being,
cheese fool you, cuz.
being the jolly green giant for people, and this is where, like I'm the dude who you go on a flight, like we went to Europe, there's like I'll eat beef jerky with you and be in your wedding party in 10 minutes. Like, that's how I roll.
Right.
My wife is not that way. She gets frustrated because it's like, why are you doing this?
Why are you embarrassed?
Why are you talking to people that you don't know? She's very private, which I get. If you are doing the things that you're doing, and this is what I try to impart not only to my kids, but the people in my office, if you are doing the things that you're doing and you are not paying it forward, I know it seems stupid, but like, we're inherently selfish. Part of the struggle is like, I want stuff for me. I want me. Like, I'm not impervious to this. Like, I understand, and I try to preach the mantra of giving back. And in doing so, the things that I try to impart on people, whether it's physical or whatever, in terms of like speaking to them or whatever, pay this forward. Do it to somebody else. Because if you're not, then what I've done for you it means nothing. If you don't keep doing it, if it's not like multiplied even by one person, like, what are we contributing to the world?
We belong to a group that says you got to give it away to keep it. And I didn't know what the fuck that meant for years. And that's just because I'm kind of dense. But now I understand.
Like,
I understand.
It's also like
It's living in gratitude.
it's living in gratitude and giving without motive. If you're giving with motive, it's not really giving and there's no gratitude behind it because you're already like, when do I get it back? Or when do I get something back? You got to pay it forward with no expectation. And you got to keep on doing it. And eventually it comes back in a different way in terms of energy or karma. And then I believe that's where I'm at right now, where it's just like I do enough good stuff or even more, like not enough, but like keep doing good stuff. And it's why you guys are here and my life's changed and everything. Once I got rid of that whole like direct 1-to-1 ratio. Like, hey, I did you a favor. I want it back.
Right.
I paid a meal. I want it back. I do it without motive now. Like, this is what it is. I don't keep track of it.
That's a great way
And
to
it
describe
also
it.
doesn't take up so much space in my brain in terms of like keeping score. Like, the accounting on that's fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
and it gets really messy and
It
hard.
gets messy and you get resentment, right? And then you get anger and then you get frustrated and then your relationships change. So once I eliminated that, like, I really believe like that's why all these blessings come into my life because I just, without paying attention and do it. And your favorite word, commitment.
It's one of my favorite things in the world to say. I'm not keeping score, bro. Like I won a long time ago. And when I realized that in my brain, I can't give enough. I can't give enough. It comes back 5,000%. It's wild.
The return on gratitude is crazy.
It's endless.
But you guys also, both of you, in your own unique ways, put so much good into the world that, like, it's also acknowledging that what you're doing, like, in my mind, as a part of the solution, the human solution, I guess,
That's great.
like, it has to start somewhere.
You're doing your part.
And there are people who there are people who are doing way more than I can do and giving way more than I can give and helping way more than I can help at this point in my life. Like, we were just talking about it this weekend. Like, my wife and I were in a season of life that it's busy. There's nothing, it's not like, marriage is bad or whatever. It's just like, I'm out every single night. Some weeks from 6:30 to 8. Like, we don't have dinner together anymore. That's like a big deal in our house.
But it's seasonal.
But it's seasonal.
That's same. We do the same thing. We're not like it's this week or it's like sometimes it's grinding season or seasonal, and other times it's like with the family. My job is to make sure I schedule those because if I let life just become life, and I know how I am, like I enjoy what I'm doing, so I could also dive deep into that. Some people call it work. I could dive deep into it and just disappear because I actually enjoy doing it. So it's seasonal, and then I have to schedule certain times. Like, my non-negotiable is August when I disappear with my family. I'm going. I told you Columbus Day weekend, short little stints to Miami, right? So like that way, it's not so like, hey, the weekends I'm off because it doesn't exist in our world, right? We still get phone calls. I still got other stuff to do, but I wouldn't call it balance because I really believe balance is a myth. But
Seasons is a great way to describe it.
We're in a season. Yeah, you're in a season. The word that I was thinking of that when we were saying this just now about like giving more than you're putting out. Like, if you're transactional, you've lost.
Absolutely.
And the way you said it, a 1-on-1 ratio, like, oh, okay, when am I getting back what I just gave?
Most people, right?
Don't give it. You're better off keeping it.
That's the give it
Yeah.
away.
But, you know, like just don't give it away. Like just
That's it.
sit in your house and be a Scrooge McDuck.
You're not ready for it.
Yeah, like
You're not ready.
that's the only way we're going to change the world, in my opinion. Like it's the little things multiplied. There's things that are happening with people at DSM, and I say to them, if we are going to do this, I have one rule: that you do something for somebody else 10 years down the road, or 15 years down the road, or somewhere you might not even be here.
Yep.
You'll be at your next 3 jobs. Do something for someone else, because if you do that, like, I've won.
Be part of the human solution. That's the title for this episode.
That was very poignant.
It was great. Perfect timing.
Yes, good closer.
Could deliver.
Darren, thank you so much for.
It was a pleasure, bro. Truly.
Rock on. This was awesome. Appreciate it, brother.
Love you.
Thank you, brother. Love you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. See you guys next time.
See you next week.
Enjoy.
Peace.
Special.